So, Arena is coming back in February of 2020, which is in 3 weeks already. And in order to register for the alpha test, from what I've heard, doesn't really matter what it's called. If you want to play Total War Arena again, all you need to do is go to this website here. Links will be in the description. And yeah, register for it. So I'm gonna do just that now. We also have a guide on how to go through it, so I'll be doing just that together with you. But after the guide section, we also are going to have a little fun with a podcast, and I will be joined by Mongoose.
Hello.
By Gunslinger.
Hello.
Pardonum.
Cheers.
Jakerp.
Hello.
And Ansimo. That was a noise of Isimo. Hello. So yeah, first I'll register. If I have some troubles, I'm counting on you to help me. But I'll be following the guide basically step by step to also show everyone how to do it. And I'm doing it for the first time, so account registration. Just say that I need to do it.
Yeah, just you just
so
need to...
so I need to click the thing here in the corner. This?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
it changes. Oh, so I guess first is like sign in and the second one is sign up. Okay.
This is to create your account, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Email, password, confirm password, put code in. And code arrives on your email from what I understood, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so my email address is a very funny one. Yomid Russian, the gmail.com. And my password is going to be very complicated.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that it?
Close.
8.
Okay. So now that we input those like email and password, how do I get a confirmation code?
Just click that gray area, then it needs to
the right side, right over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you need to do some short thing.
Something appeared. Like
Yeah,
a pop-up here.
You need to do what is necessary done. Sometimes there are letters that you need to find exactly in order, or sometimes you need to just move that puzzle thingy.
I mean, nothing like that showed up. I pressed this button. Now it's counting down 30 seconds. But I don't see a captcha. Is something supposed to arrive on my email?
No, you just need to see that the little bit pop-up screen.
No. Yeah, it sends it to your email. It's probably in spam because it's Chinese.
No,
it is.
Okay.
Well, it made me do some things, but
no. So that comes later. Oh, I have done. What? I didn't copy. The hell?
Shit. You copy your password.
No, it copied our podcast topics. I guess I'm gonna click it again. Okay, now it sent me an email. I have 60 seconds to get that code.
Come on, be faster.
I mean, it didn't come yet. I'm refreshing my email like crazy. Come on. Is it in spam? No, it's not.
No, it should be the same code because it won't let you.
No, it's a different one. Okay.
Magic.
381776. Okay, now this button. Okay, I went through it. So what's next? Log in with your email and password. Okay.
You click the little button below.
You need to click the button in the bottom left, right?
Yep. Bottom left. Don't log in.
Below the blue one.
Yep.
What, this thing? First?
But so
Yep.
the left-hand one below the blue bar.
Yeah, I guess you don't see my cursor on the Discord stream.
Yeah, we cannot see it.
Okay, I clicked it. And now the password. Hey, I did something. Now I'm in the Steam section. Okay. Oh yeah, login with your email password. Okay, I put it in. Now, okay, what do I skip, I guess?
Yeah, you don't have to link your Steam.
Another question, how old I am. Yeah, I'm between 18 and 25, let's say, although I'm actually 13, but whatever. Let's not make them believe that way. Question, your age, your experience with the game, Steam version. But which is which? Your experience with the game from Steam version or Wargaming version or never? I have both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steam version, Wargaming version, never, right?
Yep.
Well, I guess it's Steam because it's since Steam, so it also encompasses the Wargaming version. And this is like what other games I play. I play RTS. I guess I play.
Of game.
Yeah, I play MOBAs
play Dota?
and MMOs. I played League of Legends. Hello.
SLG.
Dude, I was in like Platinum in season 5 or something. And that's when I stopped playing. And SLG, no idea what that is. TPS, third-person shooter, I guess. Not playing that. And whatever that is. Okay. Check all the boxes. Do you like to be commander or team? Check all the boxes here.
So from left to right, it's like, do you like to be in a group or in between or solo?
So okay, this thing where I have 3 options. So it's team, solo, and what? Both?
Why you don't go to translate Google, copy this link, or I mean this text, maybe? It will have.
It's team, both, or solo.
Both is in the middle.
Both is in the middle? Okay, thanks. I mean,
wasn't it like or something like that?
Okay,
before?
and what's the last thing? Your email? I've already registered through it. Oh, whatever.
Newsletter or something like that, I guess. That's one.
Anyway, again, press the button.
Congratulations!
That's it! Hooray! Am I supposed to receive something now? Or is it literally it?
Nope, that's it.
You need to translate.
Very well then. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, a very confusing guide, but a very natural one, and that's what we always go for on this channel, right guys? Never prepare, never prepare. Or just a little bit in case of this podcast. YOLO Midrash essentially. That really encompasses what we are about. So, now let's actually talk about the actual game. So Total Arena, as we all know, had some rocky path to this stage. Hello, my echo from Pardonum's microphone. Anyway, now it's gone, so it's fine. Let's talk about, what in our minds Arena didn't really do well the last time around, or last 2 times around, however you want to count it, and how to do those things right for the Chinese release, and then hopefully if it does well in China when it comes back to Europe. So first thing I want to talk about that I think is one of the biggest reasons why Arena didn't really succeed, well, previous time around, is the lack of in-game content. And in-game content such as events, new factions, new maps, really hurt the population because there was essentially not much to do apart from the grind. And if you didn't absolutely love the core gameplay of random battles and sometimes custom or whatever they throw at us, you would quickly get burned out of the game. So in other games I play, be it World of Warships, even Conqueror's Blaze to some extent, or even a mobile game such as Fate Grand Order, I think those games do it a lot better than Total War Arena. As in, they are constantly giving us some events that incentivize you to grind, and if you grind through them, or even just show up, log in, or whatever, there are multiple ways of doing so. They reward you with something. They give you an incentive to keep playing, essentially, and playing in new interesting ways, like try maybe this, have fun this way this time around, all kinds of stuff. In terms of Total War Arena, you can be really creative with it. But let's take an example from World of Warships. They have something like campaigns, and they have those overall campaigns that everyone can play always. They are just accessible for everyone. And then they also have some timed campaigns. And how you could translate to Total War Arena could be that you have Caesar's campaign in Gaul, when he conquered it in when he did that. I know the dates, whatever. All right, wink wink. 50 BC. So it would have different stages through which Caesar also went, different focus on different battles. And basically stage 1, just call it Gergovia or whatever. It doesn't have to do anything with Gergovia or the factions, but okay. So in order to complete this stage of the campaign, let's say win 10 battles with a barbarian commander. To complete this stage of the campaign, win 10 battles while using Caesar. Stuff like that. Very similar to World of Warships. Or some other events, some other kinds of events focused around different commanders. For the duration of this event, I don't know, Knane gets double the points or whatever. Just some kind of constant flow of echo and events. I don't know. That would basically, I don't know, can you do something with your echo? Basically constant flow of events for the game, so that is always or almost always something to do. Well, there's also the balancing factor in it, so that if you keep throwing event after event without the so-called dead weeks in between, people also are going to be burned out from the constant grind. So it could be like 2 weeks of events, 2 dead weeks, then 3 weeks of event, and 1 dead week, and again 1 week of event, 3 dead weeks. Balance it out so that there are ups and downs, but there's always something to do for the players, which wasn't the case before. And that also ties into the development cycle, kinda, because I've been saying, and to be honest, I think I was wrong, at least to some extent, that they should absolutely focus all their resources, which also was kind of unfortunate because Total War Arena development team didn't have that many resources, sadly, because I don't think CA really believed in the project. But either way, I was saying that they should focus just on fixing the core issues, fixing the most annoying and most often occurring bugs, and fixing the obvious balance issues that we're going to talk about later. But to be honest, maybe they should have focused more on just keeping people in the game through those events, and slowly but surely also improve balance and fixing bugs, as they always do, but not focus all their energy on it. And same with new factions, right? We got Carthage, during the 1 year of wargaming, and that was it. And Japan promised somewhere on the horizon after yet another faction, which, well, probably will be Chinese, but maybe Persia, doesn't matter. But yeah, that would be it pretty much. Also, and they could do to keep things fresh and more diverse for the gameplay so that people don't get burned out would be game modes, which Ansimo wanted to talk about. Simo, take it away.
Okay. As we know, this game should be relied on the party system, like playing solo should be the option also, but most of the time you need this extra teamwork. So for this, I would just recommend like casual duo queue or something like that. You can just go with one friend. If you want, you can up it to the 4 people, which not be too dramatic to keep the balance between the teams. And yeah, as the people also like more towards the end of the games, like there's like you just reach this top level, you finish all the tech trees and you don't know what to do. You just play with your friends most of the time, or just enjoy the game playing on lower tiers with new friends. You just start the game. But for the competitive aspect, I will say like there should be something like clan or society type of matches, like 10v10 or something similar. Also, I think for not so social people, there should be something like ranked games who can be participated either way, like solo, duo, or full 5, because it should be like, in my opinion, 5 versus 5 at most. And it could be get like ranks towards it. So if you're winning the matches, you go to this ladder higher and higher, and you get so much titles for completing certain steps towards the victory points. And I think, like Mishu mentioned before, events should be as the game mode also, like something smaller, something funny, maybe the custom battles or scenarios. I mean, the scenario battles like the campaign or something, like just trying to get this historical immersive thing, like you can just set up the battles between the 2 fractions between each other, so you can just get to this queue for like 1 per month. Like this is the Greek versus Roman scenario maybe, and they will just announce like, hey, from this weekend to this weekend you can play this custom scenario battle, and after you just win a couple of this, you can you can have the title of it as you are champion of this faction or something like that. So people will be also who wants to collect titles, I think that will be something to them, so they will want to cash everything of it. And on the last, what I was bringing to this, I would like to have something like creativity from the community side. So custom battles, maybe scenarios put by the player base, voted like 1 per month by the game designers, and after this compete over which design is the most fitted into the game, will be released to the game as the maybe modification or just scenario you can play with your friends or during these events.
Yeah, so... oh, sorry, you wanted to continue?
Yeah, that could be it. So I didn't want to add anything more, so I will just end it here.
Okay, so I managed to catch when you wanted to finish. Thanks. So when I think of game modes, also what comes to my mind first is, you know, instead of just standard 10v10, each team has a base, capture it or kill all the enemy forces. We could have like, you know, control points like ABC in the middle of the map, and then you go fight over, control over them, and you have some kind of points that tick down or go up, and first team to reach 1,000 points or whatever wins, like in World of Warships, right? On the other way, how Conqueror's Blade does it, you have health pool of your points, and the first team to reach 0 loses. that kind of stuff. Also, we had dojos introduced in Shogun 2 Total War, which was a great addition. Basically, buildings appearing in key areas on the map that, if captured, gave you bonuses. So you could tie that into the standard game mode of the two bases, right? But just have dojos on top of it. If your team captures, I don't know, a temple, right, and they have +5 to morale, or if they capture a workshop, they have +10 to armor, or whatever, something like that. And yeah, those things, as me and Ansimo mentioned, should be tied to marketing. Like, big things are input into the game. Hey guys, come check it out. We have this new amazing thing. So, Gunslinger, how do you think that should go?
Okay, well, I want to start by saying that I can't really talk on what they should do with China because I have no idea about their gaming culture and how things go there. But I can talk about the quite a few of the things I thought went wrong with wargaming, and one of the big things was I think the problem wasn't that they weren't spending enough money. I mean, obviously more money would help, but where and how they spent it was pretty flawed in quite a few cases I'm going to go over here. But one of the big ones that happened was the streamer and YouTuber sponsorships. I don't know if you guys remember when that happened, but it was a few weeks after they made AI battles required for lower tiers, and that was its own problem. But basically, yeah, they made lower tiers easier and AI only to preferably either because they weren't getting enough new players or something like that. And then right after that, they went on a big binge of sponsoring some pretty big streamer and YouTubers. Like the couple I remember are Yogcast and Angry Joe, who's really big in NA. But yeah, around that time, they were getting sponsored, and they were only getting sponsored to do like one stream or one video. And in that stream or video, they only had enough time to really go through the AI matches. And that was just a horrible way to show off the game. And I think that drove a lot of potential customers away, because a lot of people who play Total War games had like no real idea the game even existed until seeing those streams, and then just seeing them beat up on AI, and that was pretty bad. But one thing they could have done was either pair them up with current content creators to already play the game and know what they're doing, and also give them some exposure along with it. But I think most of the problem was just they made it AI only, and then like the Oddcast one I remember was pretty horrendously bad, because like the last battle they played was the only PvP battle they played, and it ended with him getting kited by a Vercingetorix. He was playing Roman infantry, and then he got burned to death. And yeah, everyone was pretty flaming the game pretty hard in Twitch chat at that point. But no, what they should, what I think they should have done was either pair them with better people, or given them actual press accounts to play higher tier games where the game actually plays like it should. Another thing they did was sponsorships for history videos, like they did with what was it called? Whatever that history channel is, they sponsored a video, but basically that gives a decent impression, but nowadays kind of we see with like Raid Shadow Legends, it's pretty much just a meme, and doesn't usually end that well. But unless you sponsor people who actually are interested in it, or show some sort of interest in showing the game how it should be shown. But just random people who don't really care about the game at all, and shouldn't really be expected to, it didn't really work out that well. And Next thing that was pretty big was the tournaments. I think the only real tournament Wargaming provided was Rise of the Commanders. And we think everyone here knows how that ended up. It was not very pretty. Mostly just because the game was in a pretty big state of flux and was changing quite a bit. Stakes were overpowered. Yeah, it was kind of a clusterfuck, but the prize pool is also pretty low for that, so not really much incentive to try super hard other than our passion for the game. But it wasn't too bad, but it definitely could have been a lot better to show off the game. Also, like the little ads that they showed, I know a few times they did Google AdSense campaigns, and those looked pretty bad. I mean, they make it kind of look like a mobile game, honestly, but I think just being able to show more actual gameplay and maybe giving more exposure to the current content creators somehow would have been a lot better. That actually had the passion to show off how the game's meant to be played and things like that. But yeah, I think that's about it for what I got.
Okay, yeah. So I really like the idea you've mentioned of, I don't know, of pairing like, you know, those big content creators such as Angry Joe, Yorkcast, or whatever, with current content creators, like, you know, those big names into the war community, such as Lionheart, for example, Pixelated Apollo, Jackie Fish, whoever, who know the game obviously much better than those other content, or completely new content creators to these games, to show the game of, you know, properly, instead of just showcasing a noob wandering around in the dark, who has no idea what to do in the game. He's been paid to play and show off on his stream. That's a really good idea. And you've also mentioned their mistimings, you know, sponsoring the content creators when the game was in not such a good state. It also tied into, I mean, the same happened with the release of closed beta and open beta. So they released, they changed from closed beta to open beta. No, from closed alpha to closed beta first. And that was when they promoted the game on Gamescom, but they did that before fixing path fighting. So everyone who played the game for the first time on Gamescom, and then the huge wave of players that would come after the announcement of, okay, we're changing from closed alpha to closed beta, right? Like all those players, their first hands-on experience with Total War Arena was with that terrible path fighting, and, you know, the units just doing whatever the hell they wanted instead of doing what the player wanted them to do. So yeah, I imagine a lot of players got instantly turned off by the game and never returned because they completely missed time the marketing department with the development department. They fixed it pretty soon after the closed beta, but still, it left a bad taste in the mouth of many players. Then the same happened with the switch to open beta, where everyone can sign up. You don't have to wait for a confirmation email. They didn't do the commander level cap, so, you know, new players in tier 1 to 5 battles could still run into Vengeance 10, basically clubbers. So yeah, that was also quite a mistiming.
One thing I'd like to add, a lot of the advertising Wargaming did do, I know they did a lot towards the other World of Games communities, like World of Tanks and World of Warships. They had a lot of cross-marketing there. And I think that created a pretty big conflict of interest for Wargaming, because they were driving players away from their proven cash money franchises and into Arena. And then Arena wasn't really built to siphon money out of people like those games were. So kind of created a big conflict of interest there, where they wanted to advertise it because it's their game, but it just wasn't really a smart money move, I don't think.
Well, that's also the next thing I wanted to mention is, the target audiences that they actually targeted. With sponsorship of those big streamers, they're targeting the overall gaming population. But from what I've heard, by just visiting streams of other Total War streamers, and I just randomly mentioned Total War Arena in the chat, there were a lot of people, fans of Total War franchise, that had no idea that Total War Arena exists. This is, I think, by far the biggest failure of marketing that Wargaming NCA has done. So yeah, they sponsor the big streamers, but they didn't keep sponsoring the most common audiences. The conversion rate, of a stream to people actually starting and picking up the game. If you sponsor the Total War content creators or games that are very similar, including exactly wargaming games, because I think that there are many common themes between World of Warships and World of Tanks and Arena. So advertising to those communities, I don't think it's a bad idea, especially since those content creators usually, have more.
Oh no, it was a great idea.
About
not what I meant.
Yeah,
but I meant it was a bad idea from wargaming from a business perspective to bring people into a game that wasn't making as much money.
Yeah, and as you also mentioned, the tournament, the Rise of the Commanders, yeah, that ties in nicely into the competitive scene that Pardon wanted to talk about.
Yeah, in every type of the game, people want to, or in general, the state of the world, people want to show how good they are at some things, and they want to be ranked for it. So that brings us the competition, the competitivity of the game itself. So we need, in general, the game needs a system that can rank people, and at the same time we can play in casual manners. So we don't want to play the ranked all the time. For example, I want to teach a new member, like a friend of mine interested in the game, but I need to or I want to show how it is, and this is this, and you need to look up to that, and that's kind of things are needed to be done in casual mode. So this brings us to the competitive mode, ranking mode, and ranking mode needs two systems, right? Individual based or party, team, clan based. I'll just first talk about the individual base. There was a testing time where they try to test the 5 versus 5 ranking system, but in my opinion, which we have like massively big maps, the number of 5 for a team was low. Maybe it should have been just like 7, 6, 7 would be much better. That's just my opinion. But other than that, the problem with that system was picking system, because when the pick we are looking the picks, then we're entering the match. But in theory, there could be like 5 cavalry in one team, and the other team will be versatile, like 1 range, 2 melee infantry, 1 spear, 1 cavalry. That brings us that one team is unbalanced and one team is much more versatile and can be played much betterly. So we needed a system that can be drafted, according to the picks of our team members. We don't need to see the other part yet. Eventually that will be needed, but we are going to discuss that in the party, team, clan thingy. But yeah, the pick phase was the main reason that for me that 5 versus 5 ranking system was just initially failure. It is necessary. We need it. We want it, because personally I want to be ranked and I want to see how I'm compared to the other players, cavalry wise, spear wise, although I rarely play spear, but you remember that part. That's it. And for the party, team, or clan wise, we need that one, because there were clans, groups who want to compete with others, but most of the time this just brought us by the community tournaments. We can just compete with as teams, as there were clans, groups, and there was one tournament in NA. There was like a event, King of the Hill kind of thing, and there are lots of tournaments from the SUNTZU, thanks to great efforts of Mistru, and that brought us the team-oriented or clan-oriented systems. But we had lacked two things. We don't have spectators, and people needed to be in the game to stream or cast them. But that brings us the unbalanced things. If there was one caster, then we couldn't put that caster into the game. So we need a pick system that we can just normally in other mobile games like League of Legends, Dota 2, or any other competitive based games, we need to have a system that could be implemented, like picking, banning the maps or the commanders. That is a need. But if one commander just picked too much, or if one type of unit picked too much, that would bring us a unbalanced system in individual type ranking system and in the team-based ranking system as well. So which is brought us the question: we need a balance, but how the balance? According to the statistics, or the unit type, unit base, or commander abilities. These are the questions we need to ask, and we need to ask the other question as well: balance according to whom?
I guess that's a clue that it would be balanced according to Mongoose. But before we go there, yeah, the tournaments, that are associated with the competitive mode, or just competitive in general. Yeah, I would like to see, some more support for the tournaments from CA now and NetEase and Sega, if Sega will be involved at all.
Yeah, having community-based tournaments is nice, but we need, or the game needs that from the creators, the support for the tournaments, increased number of tournaments, or content for the tournaments. You're absolutely right about that. There was a lack of sport, so to speak, from the. They supported. Don't get me wrong. They supported, but I think personally it should have been more.
Yeah, they definitely didn't support it enough, and they only did one tournament of their own. Well, it's a delicate matter, really. But we would like to see more things, such as the system, as you said, like the pick system. We had something like that, just on our own, just utilizing the chat tool. But it was very hard to apply any sort of time limit for a pick, for example, or basically not make it super long, because people were complaining that half of the tournament is just sitting in the lobby and picking units, right? So if that would be implemented to the custom games alongside with the observer spot for casters, that would solve so many issues that would make tournaments such a better experience. That could also be then used for marketing. It's basically free marketing for CA now, right? Or whoever will do the publishing, NetEase, I guess. So yeah, they didn't quite utilize that. But another thing that tournaments live and die by is the balance. Certain teams lost or won the tournaments just because they underestimated certain OP unit, or maybe underestimated something and didn't use it, or overestimated it and relied on it too much. And yeah, that unit balance and design is something that Mongoose wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
So, balance is always a very touchy subject in all video games, and I believe the main thing that needs to be decided before balancing units is what the aim for your game is. Like, is it just a casual game that people will play maybe once a week for half an hour and just have a bit of fun with their friends? In which case, balance doesn't matter as much as long as the player experience is enjoyable. Or do you want it to be a competitive game that could potentially become an esport? in which case balance is paramount. And from what I've heard or from what I understood, the latter is what CA were wanted, or that was their vision for their game. And if that is the vision for your game, the balancing needs to be done based on results from the highest level. If you look at any other successful competitive game, all the balancing is based on the higher level. Now, that may mean that for lower skill levels of play, certain units or whatever the game happens to have may be incredibly underpowered, purely because at a higher skill cap, you can extract so much added value from those units. And with regard to Total War Arena, they had a huge problem with this, in my opinion, which also came down to a problem of the unit design. Now, for an example, I'll talk about cavalry a little bit. So the way the meta developed and the best strategy for high-level gameplay between two very skilled teams is that cavalry were there mainly to win the vision war for you during the majority of the early game. So they needed to be fast, they needed to be good scouts, they needed to be able to see things and get away from problems. And then obviously mop things up later game if they were still alive. So that brings into the problem, why wouldn't you just play Barbarian Cavalry in every single team? Now, if we look at some of the other options, say Roman Cavalry, people might think, well, if I bring that, I can outfight the enemy cavalry, and then we'll be the only ones with that unit type remaining. But that job just isn't needed. And there were lots and lots, in my opinion, of units that either did not fulfill the role they were designed for, or the role that they were designed for just was entirely unnecessary and not needed. So you have things like Roman cavalry, just there's no use for them. You had things like slingers at certain point either being unbelievably broken or useless. And yeah, there was an awful. The game had an awful lot of units, but when it came to playing competitively against other highly skilled players, it actually had very, very few viable options, as well as commanders. Like, I'm sure everyone that's played the game remembers Miltiades. He was the best, take him on everything. And to me, that's a problem.
So yeah, you touched on the commander and units, and I think that really also tied into certain problems of commander and unit combinations with premium units, because premium units were designed to bring something unique to the table. The problem that sometimes by creating something
You
unique,
cut out.
I will be fine on the recording. That's okay.
It's true, we lost.
Apparently I'm dead. I'm sorry for that. But that's why
You're
I'm
live
recording,
again.
not streaming. Hello there. So as I was saying, that created problems with certain commander and unit combinations that arose from the premium units, because those commanders were balanced around having access to certain unit types. Best example for it is Germanicus and his access through a premium unit to light infantry. Germanicus was purely designed around the fact that Roman faction had only access to medium and heavy infantry. They didn't have access to light infantry. But as soon as you bring light infantry to the table for Romans, you pick Germanicus and you think, okay, what's the biggest weakness of light infantry? Well, they are vulnerable to ranged fire. Fine, just use Testudo, no problem. Testudo is kind of slow though, but since light infantry is faster than heavy infantry, then that Testudo moves a lot faster than a regular Testudo. I mean, a Testudo that would be used by a heavy infantry unit. And they're also weaker against melee units. But hey, Vengeance pretty much beats anything. The only thing you would lose against were pikes from the front, which you would never have to engage because you are so fast, and other heavy infantry with Vengeance as well. Which you could also avoid because you're faster. And then you have, okay, they're also balanced around the fact that, well, they have access to the heavy infantry, and heavy infantry also has its set of weaknesses, such as being slow, for example, and susceptible to being disengaged from once they launch Vengeance. Well, not a problem for light infantry. They're usually faster than the enemies they fight. So start engaging, use Vengeance. They want to run away from you, but whoopsie, you're actually much faster than they thought. So yeah, that combination of Germanicus and light infantry was absolutely broken, and sadly it wasn't the only one.
I think there was a very, very good example of that point in one of the tournaments. I think, if memory serves, was run at tier 5, and to be a competitive team, you basically had to have someone on your team that had paid money to purchase, I think it was Roman cavalry, I believe, premiums.
Yes, not only cavalry, but if you're
Lancers.
talking about it, you also have the case of elephants, because if there's a tournament at tier 5, in order to have elephants at all, you had to pay money for them. And to make matters worse, elephants were time limited, which means that if you started playing the game after the sale of those elephants ended, well, goodbye from being competitive, right? If you are the elephant player for your team. Because at least in case of cavalry, yes, that cavalry was extremely overpowered for its tier and would crush any other cavalry, but at least you had a free-to-play alternative, which was much weaker, but at least was there. For elephants, there was not an alternative. So, yeah. Also, tying back to competitive, we've mentioned Wargaming Rise of the Commanders tournament, but we skipped over the CA tournament that they did an esport event, like actual esport. Well, maybe not actual, but something very close to it. It was an esport like event. They hosted somewhere in like ESL studio in Cologne or wherever, where there were 2 teams of content creators put together by Dogbert, our meme lord, although I kind of replaced him with the title Kappa. And yeah, they fought it out in a tournament fashion to showcase the game. Pretty good marketing to show off, what the game aims to be. It just isn't there yet, I guess, but it was a really good event and a really good idea. And that sort of stuff definitely is a kind of end game. Maybe not necessarily the one end game that Jacob wanted to talk about, but either way, take it away.
Okay, I think this game was extremely ambitious project, and I don't think they had the resources to make this game right, because there was after you get to tier 10, there was not really good amount of content what you can do. Even though they added the switchable skills and ranked mode, those things were not really fully polished features. They were more experimental features. And it was not enough for hardcore gamers to enjoy the game. And most of the time people spend into the custom game mode inventing their own game modes and ways to play the game, because it was the most fun part to do when you get to the certain point at tier 10 and tournament. And when you played into the normal matchmaking, it was like necessary evil to grind your units, but I don't think most of the players who seriously played the game, it was the most enjoyable way of playing the game after they get very end part of the game. And this game could really use more of game modes like party battles and clan wars, and maybe forced solo battles where everybody's forced to play with solo without any friends. And game would really need a better observer mode and better support for in-game guilds and player statistics, and something that records your progress, especially after you get to tier 10 and you have unlocked almost everything you need something that you can get forward, like titles, skins, special color options, or something. I cannot say what it necessary is, but something that gives you more progress after tier 10. And there should be really better options for tournaments, like drafting units or types and banning units and all kinds of the events. I think those other people already speak about this. So I think this is what I have about to say about this.
Yeah, I guess that was really fortunate that we, had actually so much to say about all the topics, because we kind of, everyone saw a bit from you here and there with their game modes and such. But yeah, definitely agree that a lot of players, after they reach tier 10 with their favorite commander and their favorite unit branch rather, yeah, they would like to have something new to do with it, because someone maybe just be a purely Alexander Cataphract's one-trick pony, right? And he doesn't want to play anything else because he only enjoys Alexander and Cataphracts, nothing else, and he wants to play that for as long as possible. And yeah, the game developers need to provide some kind of content for those kind of players. But
yeah, there could be, for example, some in-game support that track your progress. For example, if you just want to be the best Greek cavalry player, then there should be some statistics that game could provide, and you could check how you play, for example, like other solo cavalry player or something like that.
So a dick measuring leaderboard. I mean, we kind of had something like that going, but I guess it could be more detailed, as you're saying.
Yeah, it was really bare bone feature that what they had in the game. So if you compare the games like Dota 2 or something, like they have everything like that in the way more polished and developed a lot more. And of course, so this is I think they really lack the resources to make the game because many of these things they are pretty complex things to do if you want to do them right way.
I definitely agree with that. That making it the right way is the most difficult thing, because, well, for some people it may be something that they really want and cannot enjoy the game otherwise anymore. For other people, it will be something that will make them stop enjoying the game. But yeah, as you were saying about support and doing something for the community, I also wanted to talk about the tools and support developers and publishers. Well, that's a confusing matter in the case of Arena, because we had so many different ones and now we got another different one. But anyway, their side of the deal, they need to support content creators more, because that's also well, that's first of all just free marketing for them. They don't have to do anything, almost anything, to support that. And those kind of streams where a new streamer, like those big streamers like Angry Joe, for example, they stream the game, they showcase the game, but maybe not necessarily that well. But some people get interested in it and they want to check it out, right? So they would check out the native content creators, let's call them, who are Total War Arena or Total War in general focused, so that they could get a better feeling of what the game is actually like on a day-to-day basis, right? On a one of just the beginning of the journey, as most of those content creators that were sponsored to play Arena did. So I've been I've enrolled myself to Conqueror's Blade content creator program, which is actually really nice. They did some really nice things that I'm surprised that Arena didn't. First, the most basic thing that it's a shame that Arena didn't do it. Is just give those content creators, codes for giveaways. Whether it would be a code that unlocks a tier 4, tier 5 premium unit that isn't that expensive anyway and doesn't have that much value in game as well. But it would be a cool thing to give away, right, to boost the content creators, to keep the communities active. Like for Conqueror's Blade, I have a steady supply of codes. I can ask them I can ask for them on a 2-week basis, basically. So I pretty much never run out of codes to give away for various contests or just on my streams. So yeah, I think that definitely is something that they should do. They should be just more generous towards their community with those kind of things, because later on the return on the investment, I think is definitely worth it. And even for such big events, such as my tournaments, right? Those are basically the biggest events the game had seen, apart from Rise of the Commanders that they did themselves, but as you guys were saying, was not as good and as successful as my tournaments were. Like, even for such tournaments, they weren't really willing to support it properly. All I got were like a random article on their website, a few codes to give away during the stream, like 1,000 gold for 3 people, and then some rewards for the first 3 places that also weren't that generous. And I didn't really have a comparison back then. It's like, well, okay, they're giving it to a team of 10 people, right? And each of those players are getting 1,000 gold, so that's an equivalent of 10 euros. Well, that's 100 euros for the first team. But now that I keep getting stuff for Conqueror's Blade, I see that these guys are way more generous with what they give away. And they sometimes surprise me as well. It's like, hey, like, there's a new season coming up. Here's some codes to give away that you didn't ask for, but have them anyway. Hey, thanks. That's really cool. And for Total Arena, it was the opposite. I had to ask and ask and ask and ask, and I very often didn't get anything. So that's for the supporting content creators. What Conqueror's Blade also did, which is a very brave move on their side, and I don't expect Total Arena to do something like that, but it would be cool, I guess, is that they did an actual revenue sharing for content creators. As in, there is a pack that you can only buy if you have a code from a content creator. So you go to their shop, you see that pack, and once you want to purchase it, you have to enter a code from a content creator. You cannot purchase it otherwise. Which, for some people may be, fuck it, I'm not gonna buy it then. Which, that's why I say it's a risky move and a risky solution. But then you have to go to a content creator, ask for his code, and then if he enters your code, you get, I think, 25% cut of it, which is also pretty high. And yeah, that's great for content creators, like a really great incentive for content creators to just keep promoting the game on their own, because they're getting a hefty cut out of it if they actually convince their community to buy some premium stuff. So that's one way of approaching it. And as for the tools, you've already guys mentioned it. The most obvious things are observer mode for custom battles. But not every content creator does tournaments or custom battles with their community, right? But the other thing is replays. And to be fair, they were there, but also to be fair, they also didn't work most of the time. And a painful thing was that they weren't reverse compatible. So as soon as a patch came, all the replays were out. So you play an amazing game on Wednesday, but well, you have to go to sleep. You don't have a time to record a video, and there's a patch Thursday morning, and that amazing game and amazing replay is gone. You cannot use it anymore because the patch wiped it out. And even if it didn't, that replay could also just straight up not work because they were broken. But, well, that's more of just fixing a bug rather than introducing an actual feature. So, with that rambling, I guess we've talked for long enough. So, some final thoughts. Ansimo, would you like to take it away? What do you hope for the future of Arena? How do you think this new China deal will turn out?
I don't know, man. The China is quite specific environment, and they can just pull out lots of the different stuff like we didn't see in Europe or NA markets or steal all the games. I mean, they have the potential, as every studio would started in China, but probably CA will take it maybe closer to the EU. We shall see. I think like this potential in this game, that this is the niche because there is no other game probably more like this one. So I think like maybe in 10 months we shall see if this is this revive or another failure.
Okay, Gunslinger.
One thing I wanted to talk about a little bit more was the tournaments in terms of marketing. Where tournaments are probably some of the most fun things to watch most of the time. I mean, I'm a bit biased because we obviously played a lot, but some of the things that really let down the experience of using the tournaments for marketing to new players was the poor UI in general just made it kind of hard to watch. Red blob with health bar versus blue blob with health bar kind of took away from the flavor. And then obviously no spectator mode, which also meant no 10v10 was possible, was kind of took away from the scale unnecessarily of the battles. And then lastly, I think there really should have been tier 10 tournaments, especially since a lot of the balance revolved around tier 10 and tier 9 matchmaking. And I think that's where the game was at its best and where it was the most balanced. And also, you want to show off tier 10 and show how cool all these high tier units are so that people actually have a goal and can see what they're grinding for instead of just playing for no reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. That tournaments are not necessarily a tool to market to a completely new audience, to draw new people into the game, but rather to incentivize your current player base to keep playing and strive for the level that those best players in the world display. But about the tier 10 tournaments and 10v10 tournaments, even if they were possible on a technical level, I don't think we were there as a community yet, as in there were just not enough clans that would be able to put forward a 10-man team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we just didn't have enough time for a lot of people to get to tier 10. And
yeah, that's why a lot of my tournaments were tier 7, tier 8, and 7v7, 8v8, rather than 10-10 or 9-9, right? Anyway, pardon?
Well, this time I might have an idea of what can we expect in the China area, because with the deal between CA and the NetEase, they're giving, or they are doing something with the general of the CA games, right? So they are giving the total arena and the other creative assembly games at the same time, so the community can see that there's a game like that. So it might be a success, at least I believe that way. But my concern is how will that success, if we speak that is a success, will affect us, the players not in the China, and the players in NA or Europe, right? So will it be the same as in China, or will it be there's a different version, like in the Conquest Blade, there's a frontier version and the other version, and player base just divided between that? I think you could get that idea from the CB players like that. That's the main problem or main concern of mine.
Yeah, to be honest, I would see that more as a hope rather than a concern, because if, Conqueror's Blade is successful enough to be able to sustain multiple, you know, spread out player bases. Like none of the servers really suffers from a low enough population, like Lower Arena kind of did. So it isn't an issue for them, and the advantage that comes from it is exactly that what you said, the different versions, where the Chinese version is known to be more pay to win than the other versions, because I've spoken as a content creator. Another thing that the content contributor program did, they hosted an event for all the content creators to come and basically ask questions about the development and such, as they were talking about what's new with the new season. And they reassured us that when I asked personally why there are different versions and why are we getting some stuff later than the other versions, they are actually checking through things, and if there is a thing that could turn out pay to win, they either just straight up don't introduce to the Western version or change it so that it's not pay to win. Can't really bring you an example because I don't know exactly what a Chinese version looks like. But I've just heard that there are certain pay to win elements to it, while in the Western version they're pretty much none. I mean, if you are really persistent, you would find some things, but they're definitely not a big issue. Mongoose?
So the thing I just wanted to say to cap it off really is that if their game is struggling, they just need to not be afraid to look at what other games are doing well and sort of put their own spin on it. Like the most famous successful resurrection of a game in recent memory was Rainbow Six Siege. They took the time out, they fixed all their bugs, and players flocked back. If you look at League of Legends, like balance needs to be updated regularly, not just like once every 6 months or however often Arena did it. And like to go back to the supporting the content creators and the community run tournaments and all the things that their hungry player base is putting so much effort into, it doesn't require a huge amount. Like no one's asking for $1,000 prize pools or anything like that, but if the tournaments, even if it was just the finals of the tournaments, were streamed on the official CA or Wargaming or whoever the new Chinese ones done for, like on their official Twitch channels or something, just to give it more exposure, it doesn't take a huge amount. Like learn from your mistakes, and hopefully it will be a successful resurrection.
And Jacob?
I hope that if this China deal goes good for them, I hope that they get more resources to improve the game and make more content to it and polish all kind of the features that players like. But I think there is a risk that Western audience don't like the same kind of the stuff that Asians like. So there is a bit of conflict. I cannot say totally what this difference is because I don't know the Asian games. I have only played some of them, and they are not always very attractive enough to Western players. So basically, they need to decide if they want to target the game more into Asian players or to Western players, or add something to that both likes. I don't know what is good thing for them to do, but this is something they should look. And I'm giving the handout back to Mr.
Ooh la la, very smooth. Thank you, Jacob. So yeah, I overall think that, yeah, as Ansimov I think said, and it's definitely true, that Arena is really one of a kind game. Once Arena went on a hiatus first in like 2016, I think it was, when there was the transition between Steam version and Wargaming version. That's when I started playing World of Warships, trying to find a replacement in the meantime when Arena was gone. And well, World of Warships didn't cut it. Now that Arena died, I started playing Conqueror's Blade, and that's when I really started, acknowledging how good Arena was. I just forgot the word to describe it perfectly, but anyway, appreciating. There we go. Appreciating how good Arena was and how good some of their solutions to certain problems were. Because for some things, I just couldn't imagine that it could be a problem. It just came naturally, like, duh, obviously it is that way, right? But I complained the Conqueror's Blade, and that duh, obvious thing is a problem in the game, and it doesn't have a solution to it in Conqueror's Blade. So Arena did a lot of things right, and we've spent a lot of this podcast while talking about what Arena did wrong. But I also think we need to acknowledge, and I was doing that back in the day as well. Definitely, if I didn't absolutely love the game, I wouldn't do all the tournaments and all the stuff for it. But yeah, Arena did a lot things right, at least from the gameplay perspective. And that's why I think the developers and the studios overall need to just put more faith into Arena, because I feel like that's what really stopped Arena from being a huge success. They didn't believe in it enough. Like, they didn't invest enough money in it in terms of development team size. We could have easily observed that through a very slow development cycle. Like, those big patches were coming at a very slow pace that they changed to like patch every 2 weeks, but those patches were very small, very insufficient, and the bugs and the problems that were prevalent for a very, very long time took a lot to finally iron out or fix them, such as I mentioned earlier, the path fighting. That's such a basic feature. Like, everyone moves their units around, and eventually they're gonna path around a corner, right? And that is like absolutely top one priority issue, and yet it took very, very long to fix it. Maybe it was just a very pesky bug, but if that was just a one-off thing, but that trend was visible throughout many other issues as well. Not being fixed, not even being addressed, not even being approached, because the development team just wasn't big enough to tackle all those issues at once, and they had to focus on one smaller thing at a time, while the other things were just annoying to the community. And as the game is annoying to play, that turns off people, and they eventually quit the game and never come back. Or there maybe wasn't enough good marketing to make them come back after they once quit. But yeah, overall, I hope that the China release turns out being successful, and if it is successful enough, such as Conqueror's Blade, even if they then transition to the Western version, once the Chinese version is successful, and then the Western version turns out not being that successful, although I hope it won't, obviously. It won't not turn out, just to make it clear. There's a double negative in there. That even if it doesn't turn out that good, that the Chinese version will still keep it alive, because that will be the one thing that is successful and sustains all the other versions through their pay-to-win schemes, and that hopefully CA, Sega, NetEase don't give up on Arena and actually believe in it and invest a proper amount of money in it. and give it enough time, because in the previous version, or just first time around, because you can count as Steam Plus Wargaming, it's one try, they didn't give Arena enough time, because Arena never reached the point at which those other successful games are, such as my first biggest issue is the lack of constant flow of new game content, such as events, those campaigns, all the various stuff that keep players playing. Which Arena didn't reach that point because they were busy fixing all the bugs and fixing balance. Which, to their credit, as I said earlier, they did a pretty good job at, apart from few exceptions, such as everyone is aware of what I have the most gripes with. But, I mean, now they had a lot of time, and they were already at a really good point just before Arena died. So now if they can focus their efforts on the right things and doing the right thing this time around, I honestly think that it will be a success, as long as they don't make terrible mistakes. And yeah, with that, I would like to conclude and thank you all of you guys for joining me today for this podcast. So, Ansimo, Gunslinger, Jakob, Mongoose, Barnum, thank you once again for joining me and providing us with a really interesting conversation. I'm really
Thanks
glad.
for having us.
Yep,
Really glad how it turned out. It was really good. So, looking forward to Arena's return in 3 weeks or so. Well, it's just February. We don't know where exactly, and if you're gonna get in and such. But either way, to Arena's glorious return in 2020.